Every campaign in Google Ads needs to have a bidding strategy attached to it. Some allow you to have all of the control. Others put all the control in Google's hands of how aggressive or not aggressive you'll be in each auction. There are some specific use cases for each of the bidding strategies, and we want to go through some of the strengths and weaknesses because choosing the wrong bidding strategy can really impact your performance. So in this video, I'm going to go through each of the bidding strategies available on Google Ads, talk about some good use cases, some not so good use cases, and hopefully make it easier for you to determine which bidding strategy is right for your campaign. I've gone ahead and hopped into a staged campaign that we have set up in Google Ads, and I've scrolled all the way down to the bidding section. This is really the only place that we're going to be in the entire interface during this whole video, here in PowerPoint, because that's all we really need to see. As you can see here, when I created a new campaign, Google started me off in the maximize conversions bid strategy, but it does have a link down here that allows us to change the bid strategy. So this is what I want to go through today. When you click change bid strategy, it starts asking you questions to figure out what your campaign is supposed to focus on. It's going to preset to conversions because it's trying to take its cue from the maximize conversions as a start, but you can choose from this dropdown whether you want to optimize for conversions, conversion value, other optimization options, which are actually blanked out right now, clicks, and impression share. What this is trying to do is ask a series of questions to determine which bidding strategy makes the most sense for you. This question and answer section is meant to be something that's a little bit easier for folks who don't know exactly the names of every bidding strategy, but still want to make sure that their campaigns are focusing on the goals that they want to have. So whether or not it's easy for you to go through and do this question and answer or choose your bidding strategy directly based on the name of it, either way is going to get you to the same result. It just depends on your experience that you have with the interface. I personally have been doing this for a while, so I'm going to avoid answering these questions and setting these different checkboxes and all this at the top, and I'm going to choose this blue link that says or select a bid strategy directly. Obviously, Google says that this is not recommended because it just means that you probably have a little bit more experience with the bid strategy names themselves. When I click on that, it changes back to something that looks like where we started, but now you'll see that now next to this maximize conversions, there's a drop down. So now it opens up all of the different bidding strategies that are available within the search campaign that I'm setting up. And for the sake of this video, we're only going to go through a search campaign because I think the examples are going to be easier for everybody to grasp. So you can see all the different names here. We'll go through each of these today, but the one I want to start with is the one that is actually going to be down here by itself. It's the only one that is a manual bid strategy. You'll see that the rest of these are up here in the automated bid strategies section. We're going to start with manual CPC. What that does is it means that you, the advertiser, are going to set your own maximum cost per click for each time that you enter into the auction. Google is going to default you to choosing this enhanced CPC checkbox. We'll get to that in a minute. So for right now, I'm going to uncheck it. And I wanted to point out that if you go back to just manual CPC without using the enhanced functionality, Google is going to show this as a warning because it quote unquote may result in lower performance. Sure, it very much might, because this is the option where there is no machine learning that is incorporated into your bids. This is the strategy that is solely on you as an advertiser to determine how much you want to pay per click. Let's say you set a $5 cost per click for an individual keyword. That means you will never pay over $5, but you could pay up to $5 for any individual click on that keyword. Overall, manual CPC is a pretty easy bid strategy to grasp, so let's hop into PowerPoint and I'll talk about some good use cases and potential downfalls for using manual CPC. If you're just getting started in PPC advertising, or if you're starting with a brand new set of keywords or campaign or a completely new account to you, I highly encourage you to start off with manual CPC. It gives you the most control at the keyword level to set your bids. Also allows you to still utilize all of the other bid modifiers available, whether for device, audience, day parting, whatever it is. You have the most amount of control with manual CPC at all levels. It's also very good for getting a feel for a new account. And it might sound a little earthy crunchy, but give me a minute and go with me on this. Every time I get a new set of keywords or a new account, I always start off on manual CPC because I want to see how the campaigns, the keywords, performance respond when I make a change in the bid. In some keyword groups and some industries, if you make a 10% bid increase, nothing happens. Performance feels almost the same and you're not making a big dent. In other accounts, if you make a 10% bid increase, your volume goes through the roof and it's very sensitive as to how the campaign responds to those types of changes. In my experience, it's always been better to start off with manual CPC and then shift into a more automated bidding strategy later so you understand and have the right feel for the account. The biggest issues with manual CPC obviously are that it takes the most amount of maintenance because you have to do all of the bid adjustments yourself, whether it's again on all of those bid modifiers or just the individual bid changes for performance over time. It does take the most amount of time and attention to make sure that you're optimizing your bids accordingly because it doesn't utilize any of the machine learning that Google has available. In some instances, that's okay. In other instances, you might be missing out a little bit. For the next bid strategy, I'm going to actually check the box for the enhanced CPC because I want to talk through how this one works differently from the manual CPC. For the purpose of this video, we're going to call this bidding strategy enhanced CPC, not manual CPC with enhanced bidding, whatever. Gets confusing. So enhanced CPC is where you can still set your manual maximum cost per click bid on each individual keyword, but Google will also adjust your keyword automatically when it thinks there is a chance that it might get a conversion or increase in conversion value depending on which one of these radio dials you choose down here. It automatically chooses conversions because that's the easier one, but if you have a large difference in conversion value, say maybe some conversions are worth $10 where others are worth $100, it might make more sense for you to choose optimize for conversion value. Effectively, what enhanced CPC does is allows Google to increase your bids when it thinks it is more likely to lead to a conversion and lower bids when it thinks it's less likely to convert. So when you go to review your performance, don't be surprised if your average cost per click is higher than what you set at the manual CPC level because Google likely increased when it thought it had a better chance of getting a conversion or increasing your conversion value. Let's talk about a couple of best use cases and a couple of downfalls for enhanced CPC before we move on to the next bid strategy. With enhanced CPC, you still have a lot of the same control levers that you have for manual bidding, but it does allow for some of the automation to come in when Google thinks that it can get you a conversion or could see more conversion value available. Google does say it'll increase your bids above your max CPC when it thinks conversions will come through and lower it when it thinks it's less likely to get one. In my experience, you're almost never going to see the CPCs be much lower than your max unless it's just not a very competitive keyword. So if you're seeing really good performance from your campaigns and you just need to take a little bit of the manual approach off of your plate so you can focus on other things and you want to lean into Google's machine learning a little bit to try and impact your conversions or conversion value, enhanced CPC is a very easy option to roll out. You'll still have a lot of the same control levers, but you do have a little bit of that machine learning into the mix as well. So we've covered manual CPC and enhanced CPC, and those are the two, like I said at the beginning, that are the only ones that are in this manual bid strategies section. Now we're going to jump up into the automated bid strategies, and I'm actually going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to start with maximize clicks, where Google is going to automatically set bids for you to get the most clicks within your budget. Here you'll see most of the controls that we had went away. This is a much shorter section than what we had in the manual and enhanced CPC section. The only thing we have here is to set a maximum cost per click bid limit. If you check this box, you can set a maximum CPC that you want to have in place, but that can limit what Google is going to do. Effectively, maximize clicks is pretty self-explanatory. Google is going to take your daily budget and try to get as many clicks as it possibly can while spending your entire daily budget to do so. By setting a maximum cost per click bid limit, you will end up keeping your cost per click below that limit. Google will honor that, but it also means that it might be a little bit harder for it to spend the whole daily budget because you're effectively making it harder for Google to compete for each of the different auctions that you're trying to enter into because you have that maximum bid limit in place. Maximize clicks is definitely not a bid strategy that everybody should just jump headfirst into. So let's talk about a couple of good use cases and some downfalls of the maximize clicks bidding strategy. The best use cases for maximize clicks really end up being if you don't have profitability metrics in place, or if your keywords are such high profitability that you really just want to get as much volume as you possibly can for them. This can be a good option for that. Let's say maybe your target cost per conversion is $10, but for some reason a certain set of keywords you consistently are seeing $2 cost per conversion on them. Maximize clicks could be a really good way to try and get as much volume through on those high performing keywords while trying to keep the same cost per conversion low, but not setting any limits on that front. This is also a good option if you don't have any conversion metrics in place. That's a rant for another day as to why you don't have conversions in place, why you don't have conversion tracking set up. But if you're just trying to get as many people to your site, maybe a blog post or a news release as you possibly can, maximize clicks could be a good option for that because it's not going to optimize for any conversion metric or any value metric that you have associated with the account. And it will try and spend your entire daily budget every single day, which in some instances can be a good thing. But if you're trying to be more efficient and trying to be profitable, this could be an issue. So make sure that whatever daily budget you have in place, you're comfortable spending that every single day for these clicks because that's what Google is going to try to do. As a side note to maximize clicks, it does have a benefit that all of the other automated bid strategies don't, and that's that it still allows you to utilize all of the other bid modifiers that you can use on manual and enhanced CPC campaigns. You can still set individual bids for devices, locations, ad scheduling, audiences, demographics, all of these different segments, but you'll notice that most of the others have no available in all of these different areas. So as we go through the rest of the automated bidding strategies here, know that this is going to be the grid that kind of tells you where you can and can't change any different bids. As a shortcut, the only one where you can change the bid modifier and have any sort of control other than just a negative 100% is going to be target CPA for device, where you can still adjust based on whether it's a computer, desktop, mobile device, what have you. Every other bid modifier you're not going to be able to use with the rest of the bidding strategies we're going to talk about in this video. Let's say we want to continue using Google's automated bidding strategy, continue using the machine learning to maximize results, but we've decided because of some of those downfalls that clicks aren't the right option. So let's try and shift over into maximize conversions. This is going to be very similar to the maximize clicks bidding strategy in that Google is going to try and get as many conversions as it possibly can on any individual day by spending your entire budget to do so. Here you have no control over what your maximum bid limits could or couldn't be because Google is going to automatically set your bids. You'll see that there is no modification that you can make to this bid strategy. The only thing you can do is turn it into a portfolio strategy as opposed to an individual campaign. I'm not going to get too far into portfolio bidding strategies, but as a quick crash course, this basically means that you're going to group a segment of campaigns. Maybe you have 2, 3, 4 campaigns that you group together to leverage the maximize conversion strategy, and it's going to utilize the same daily budget across those 4 campaigns to try and maximize conversions, not just within this single campaign. Portfolio bidding strategies do have their strengths, but one of the weaknesses, especially with maximize conversions, is that if you have one of your campaigns in there that's going to get more volume, it will likely spend the entire daily budget of the whole portfolio meant for those 4 campaigns trying to get you as many conversions as it can. So one thing to be cautious of is where you set up maximize conversions and how you include that with other campaigns. There are some good use cases for maximize conversions, but it is a little bit hit or miss. So let's talk about some of those and some potential downfalls if this isn't the right bidding strategy for you and what some of the outcomes could be. Maximize conversions works best if you already have a lot of conversion data available in your account. You have all conversions with roughly the same value. Some aren't more valuable than others. And you don't have any need to control the CPA because you're already seeing conversions come through at a cost per conversion that you're happy with. One thing with maximize conversions is that Google is going to still try and spend that entire daily budget to get you as many conversions as it can. So it's going to take some chances and try and learn and see who it can serve ads to and who it can't to get the return on those individual clicks that it's driving. So in some instances, your cost per conversion could be a little bit higher than what you've been seeing because Google is taking some of those chances in an effort to try and maximize the number of conversions you're getting. So if you need to have some control over CPA, That's the next bid strategy that we want to talk about. But maximize conversions is great if you don't have any need to control that because you're already seeing good conversions and you're happy spending the entire daily budget every single day. So we've decided that we want to optimize for conversions, but we do need to have some level of control over what our costs end up being because we have some efficiency goals that we want to meet. So sticking with automated bid strategies, we want to switch from maximize conversions into a target CPA strategy, which means that Google is going to try and get you as many conversions as it possibly can at a target cost per action, cost per conversion that you set within your campaigns. This is kind of taking a little bit from that maximize clicks bidding strategy and maximize conversions and giving you some of that control back. Maximize conversions is going to try to get you as many conversions as possible for your budget. Some of those could have a low CPA, some could have a much higher cost per conversion, but target CPA allows you to set a target that you want to pay for each conversion that you have in the account. It's important to know that this is a target CPA, not a max CPA. So in some areas, you're going to see your cost per conversion is higher than the target that you set, but the goal is that Google is also going to bring in conversions that are lower than the cost per conversion target that you set here so that over time it averages out so that all of your conversions are at about the target cost per conversion that you set here. Way back in the day, there did used to be a max CPA bidding strategy. That is no longer. Just like we talked about with enhanced CPC, if you set a specific target, don't be surprised if you go into your account and your cost per conversion is higher than the target that you set because Google is trying to learn, take some chances, and over time it will try to balance out to be the target goal that you have in place. With target CPA, there is certainly the temptation to set a goal cost per conversion that is lower than what you're currently seeing in your account. Do not do that. It's going to end up hindering your campaigns. The best way to set up a target CPA campaign is to start off with a little bit of leniency. If your cost per conversion has been $25 across your account for the past 30 days, you really should set your target CPA to be somewhere maybe close to $30. And then over time, once you start seeing performance and Google kind of balances out to that target CPA, you can incrementally lower it down to be at 25 where the account goal is, or even lower than that down to 20. But it's not in your best interest to start off with a very restrictive, very optimistic target CPA because Google simply will not have the ability to gain enough data to learn and start to serve your ads to the people who are more likely to convert. You're hindering its ability to learn and optimize and understand where it can and where it can't get conversions at the target cost per conversion that you've set. Just like with all other bidding strategies, target CPA has some really good instances where it can be useful, but there are some areas where it can be a hindrance to your campaign performance. The best use cases here really lean into what we talked about with the functionality, is that you need to have a lot of conversion data because you need to have conversions available in the account for Google to optimize from, and you need to control the cost per conversion. So if you need to make sure that you have some control over what your cost per conversion is, target CPA can be a great option for you. If you read any of the supporting information about target CPA, Google's official word is that you can now use this bidding strategy without any sort of previous conversion metrics in your account. I highly encourage you to not do that, if you will. They might be right. In some instances, it could work out really well, but it's really much better if you start off with having a good baseline of performance in your account because Google will have more data to learn from and it'll make its automated bidding strategy just that much smarter because it can take cues from your past performance. So like I said, although Google says that you don't need any conversions to start off with this, I would encourage you to at least have 30 conversions in the past 30 days, if not 50, which was the previous benchmark from a few years ago. That's just where I've seen it work best. So make sure that you have some conversion data in there. Otherwise, it could be a bit of an uphill battle to get target CPA to work out well. The main downfall of target CPA is that even if you do have enough conversion data, this bidding strategy can tend to limit volume over time. As it's trying to hit your target CPA, it will take some chances and generate conversions at a higher cost and some at a lower cost. And for whatever reason, even if it's having an easy time hitting your target, I've always noticed that target CPA ends up lowering volume as time goes on for the campaigns that may have had more volume when they were on a manual bidding strategy. So this is why it's important to make sure that you set a reasonable target CPA. You're not trying to limit it too much because it's already going to naturally limit that as it's trying to be efficient and hit the target goal that you have in mind. The next bid strategy is going to help us still focus on conversions, but rather than treating each conversion the same, we're going to start optimizing for the return on those conversions rather than just setting a cost per conversion goal like we did with target CPA. So the next one I want to talk about is target ROAS, or target return on ad spend. With this bidding strategy, Google is going to try and get you as much conversion value as it can within your daily budgets at a specific target return on ad spend. In the same way it tried to get you as many conversions as it could at the target cost per conversion you set in a tCPA bid strategy. This is a great bidding strategy if you want to try and get as much as you can out of the machine learning section while also trying to make sure that you're hitting profitability margins. With target ROAS strategy, you simply need to calculate the target return on ad spend that you want to hit in your campaigns, set that as a percentage number within the campaign here, and Google will do its best to spend your money while also hitting that return on ad spend goal that you have set here. Obviously, one of the biggest factors for target ROAS is not only that you have conversion tracking set up, but you're also confident that your conversion value tracking is also accurate. This could be as simple as when you set up an individual goal, you're able to give it a certain value, whereas in lead gen, maybe a content download is worth $10, whereas a demo request is worth $100. Or it could be as sophisticated as an e-commerce campaign where you have individual products with their own price and each one has a drastically different value associated to your campaigns. If you meet all of those requirements and you're sure that you have everything set up properly, target ROAS could be a good option for you, but it still might not be, and I want to make sure that you choose the right one. So let's talk about some good use cases and potential areas where target ROAS could be an issue. Target ROAS has a very similar set of best cases and downfalls that target CPA does. You need to have lots of conversion data available and you have some sort of need for control. The biggest difference here is that you want to make sure that you have differing values by conversion. That's where this one's really going to shine, if it can help find you the higher value conversions at a reasonable cost or get those lower value conversions at a much lower cost to try and end up hitting your target return on ad spend overall. This can also have a similar limiting effect to volume as time goes on because it's trying to be efficient to hit your ROAS goal that you have set. So make sure that just like with target CPA, you're willing to let things be a little bit limited to make sure that you're hitting the efficiency metrics that you need to hit. If you're seeing good results out of the target ROAS campaign bidding strategy, but you are hitting some of those limitations on volume that we talked about, there is a bidding strategy that might be a good option to test out, and that's maximize conversion value. In the same way that we utilized maximize clicks and maximize conversions, maximize conversion value is where Google is going to try to get you the most conversion value for your daily budget every single day. So it's still going to try to optimize and spend as much as it can, but the goal is not to get the most clicks or the most individual conversions. It's to have the biggest return on what that daily spend was. Just like with maximize conversions, you can see that there are no other levers that we're able to pull here, and we're not able to really optimize on any of those other bid modifiers that we talked about earlier. This is one of those where we have to rely on the fact that Google has a robust amount of data to learn with, and it's going to serve the ads to the people most likely to get good conversion value. Again, just like with the other strategies, there are some good use cases and some potential downsides to using maximize conversion value. So let's talk about those really quick. Some of these are getting a little bit redundant, but hopefully this is still useful to go through each of these. We need to have lots of conversion data available for maximize conversion value. It's best if you have differing values for each of your different conversions and you're not worried about the specific return on ad spend goal. Maybe that's because you're simply just trying to drive as much value as you possibly can, or maybe your account is already highly profitable and you don't want to set a limit. So we're just trying to make sure that we get as much value out of our daily budget that we can. Because again, just like with the maximize clicks and maximize conversions, Google is going to try and spend the entire daily budget every single time. Over the course of this video, we started off with the most controlled bidding strategy of manual CPC and worked our way all the way through a lot of automated bid strategies that are trying to get further and further to the return that you can see for your company based on the conversion metrics, conversion value, all of this sort of thing. But for this last bidding strategy, I want to take a step back and go even before the click happens, because there are bidding strategies that allow us to try and influence how much impression share our campaigns are going to get. and that utilizes the target impression share automated bidding strategy. Rather than trying to return a certain number of clicks, a number of conversions, the conversion value, all target impression share is trying to do is increase your ad's chances of appearing in the search page area that you select. And that's an important distinction because you can have control over where you want your ads to show, not over just whether they show or not. The first dropdown here is where we're going to choose that option. Where do you want your ads to appear? And there are going to be a couple of different options. First is anywhere on the page, which is going to correlate to your impression share metric in your campaign. The top of the results page, which means that you want your ad to show anywhere in the top section of ads at the very beginning of the search engine results page. That could be either where there's 1, 2, 3, or 4 different ads. It doesn't matter, you just want to show up in there. The last option is the absolute top of page results. And what that means is you want to show effectively in what we used to know as position 1. The slight change in text here basically means that yes, you're going to show in the first ad position available, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to be directly below the search bar on Google. That could mean that you are the first ad at the very bottom of the page, or it could mean that you're below some shopping results, something along those lines. But based on these different locations here, you can choose where you want your ad to show up and what impression share metric you're trying to influence. Each of these has their own impression share metric within the platform. So depending on what your current metrics are and how you're showing at the absolute top of the page, top of the results page, or just anywhere on the page, and what your goals are, you can choose how you want to bid to try and get into those specific impression share metrics. For right now, I'll just leave this anywhere on the results page and just say that we want to increase our impression share. The next set down here is where we choose what impression share target we want to hit. Depending on whatever your goal is, maybe right now you're hitting about 50% impression share, but you want to scale that up to maybe 80%, something along those lines. You would simply type in 80 into this field because that's the percentage number that you want to hit of having that impression share. The caveat that I will say to this section is that be cautious about being too aggressive on your target impression share number. I know a lot of people put in 100% here, and sometimes 100% simply just isn't feasible. That might be a realistic number when it comes to your brand campaign. If you're not a major brand name, you want to have 100% impression share, and that might be reasonable. But in other areas, especially with more non-brand keywords, that might be a really hard number to hit, and something closer to like an 80 to 85, maybe even up to 90% is really going to be the max that makes any sort of sense. While you're setting these impression share numbers in place, just remember that just because you're showing up in that ad position doesn't mean you're going to get any returns for it. So make sure that whatever number you set here, whether as aggressive or conservative as you want to be, is really in line with your overall goals, not necessarily just vanity numbers to make sure that you're showing up in number 1 spot. No business generates revenue from being the top of the results page on Google. The only company that does that is Google. Make sure that you're working in your company's best interest, not just your vanity metrics. The last piece down here is you can set a max CPC bid limit that Google will honor even when it's trying to get the highest impression share that it possibly can. Obviously, these two things are kind of counterintuitive. If you have a very competitive keyword that might take a $30 cost per click to get into the impression share area that you want, but you set a max CPC bid limit of $10, you're probably not going to hit the impression share target that you want. So these two numbers are going to work as an inverse of each other, but this max CPC bid limit can be a saving grace if you want to try and get your impression share numbers up, but you're still trying to be cautious about what you're spending to get into that top position. Since this bid strategy is obviously quite a bit different than the other ones we've gone through in this video, let's talk about some best use cases and potential downfalls for target impression share. Best cases for target impression share are when you're really just trying to make sure that you have the right positioning. This could be for branding issues, like I mentioned earlier, talking about making sure that you're showing up either at the top of the page or at the absolute top of the page for your brand name. Could be a good place to kind of hold your ground. Or for some keywords that are can't lose types of scenarios, whether that's something that you can't lose because those keywords are just so profitable that you want to get as much impression share as you possibly can and you know the returns are going to be there, or can't lose insofar as they're vanity keywords and your company knows that you're bidding on this keyword and you're probably not going to get returns on it, but it ends up being a more branding play later on to make sure that when people search for that specific phrase, your name becomes almost synonymous with it because you end up being the one who shows every time either on the page, at the top of the page, or at the absolute top of the page in position 1. These are certainly not focused on profitability metrics. They're not even focused on click metrics. So if you're trying to focus on some sort of engagement or profitability, target impression share is not going to be the right option for you. But if you want to just make sure that you show up, you get the impression, people are seeing your name associated with the search term that they typed in, target impression share can be a great option for that. So as a quick recap, obviously, as we can see here, there are bidding strategies available for impressions. We've talked about a number of them available for clicks, whether they're completely automated or they utilize all of your manual inputs. And there are also bidding strategies to help you target either conversions, the sole number of conversions, or the return on the conversions that you have by focusing on conversion value. There's invariably going to be a bid strategy for everybody, and that's by design because you literally have to have one to run a campaign. But hopefully by running through each of these and showing you some good scenarios, you know which one is going to be the right fit for your campaign, and maybe you end up using the handful of different ones in your account because each campaign has its own goal. Thanks for watching our video. If you thought it was useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to get notified of when a new one comes out, be sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel.